Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Alex Kapitko here. This is the Centered from Reality podcast. It's Tuesday evening. You know, life's pretty good. It's in the 40s. Yesterday it snowed. The day before it was cold. The day before it was 70s. You know, I can't keep up with it, but what do you do? Anyways, I want to start with the NFL really fast, just because I'm happy for once. And there's one happy thing I just wanted to start with here, so we're going to do it. So, Aaron Rodgers, if you guys don't know, I'm a big Packers fan. He will be back in the green and gold. He will be back as a cheesehead in 2022. While I'm living up here in Chicago, I would love to see him play again. Finally got lucky enough to see him play in Chicago last year against the Bears. And, his vaccination opinions aside, I think he's great. And I love him on and off the field. So I'm happy. It's reported by Ian Rappaport, 4 years, $200 million extension. So from what I've gathered here, that makes him the highest paid NFL player of all time. Fine with me, whatever keeps him. You know, Russell Wilson went to Denver, and when I saw that, I was like, good. Rodgers is not going to Denver. And then the cards all fell into place. So wanted to start with a rosy note. Now, the NFL has, believe me, plenty of problems because there's some receiver from the Falcons. I think his last name's Ridley. I haven't followed the story too closely, but he was sports betting, and he's been banned for this or suspended for the season. The hypocrisy in the NFL, like how they punish some actions and not others, blows my mind. It's like, okay, sports betting on FanDuel, you're out for a season. Smoke weed, 2-year suspension. Beat up your wife or beat up your kids, 1-game suspension. It's just, none of it makes sense. The hypocrisy is insane. I could go on all day. Hey, maybe one day down the road we'll do a whole episode on the hypocrisy in the NFL. But good news is Rodgers is back in Green Bay. Bad news is the NFL still just has these crazy suspensions for things that are not bad, but then, sexual assault or domestic abuse, you only get kicked out for a game or two. But anyways, I just finished up my first final of the week. I'm heading back to California in a few days for California and Nevada for a few days, to see family and friends. Honestly, not to brag at all, but I am glad that I left my car for this quarter and maybe for the next quarter as well. I'm glad I left them in California because, this gas spike is insane. I mean, I'm seeing everyone's Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and I'm just like, holy crap. Like, California's always been expensive, but when I'm seeing like $4 or $5 in Georgia, I'm just like, that is rare. That is not something I'm used to seeing. We'll get to this topic later in the podcast, but I just wanted to start with that, Good God, it's just going to get worse. Like, since we've banned the U.S. Importation of Russian gas, which we're going to talk about, I think it cut out there. The connection's been a little weird the last couple days, but I would not be surprised, honestly, if the price of oil went up to $150 a barrel or more. I was talking to my mom earlier, and she mentioned that she is currently paying $6.59 a gallon out in the West Coast. So fun shit, really fun. It's worse in Europe, especially because they also buy it by the liter, which is a lot less. And they're just closer to Russia, and their dependence is a whole different supply chain than ours. So yeah, it's kind of terrifying. If I was anyone right now, I would not be happy that owns a car. And so, like I said, it has been nice living in the city without my car here. But I'm not trying to gloat. I'm just conversation point, I guess. But anyways, I will get to this later since that is kind of the main topic. But I first wanted to just give an update on this crazy call that our friend Donald Trump was involved in over the weekend. So he had a call with John Daly, who's a famous golfer, big MAGA guy. Honestly, kind of entertaining. I don't watch a lot of golf, but I do find, especially when I'm around like my dad or my grandparents who do like to watch golf, I'll sit down and get quite fixated on it for a little bit. And John Daly's a fascinating dude. Look him up if you haven't. That's all I'm going to say. But the reason I bring up is because on this just this phone call that was recorded. So I don't like when they record these phone calls like this, but I guess during this phone call, Trump mentioned that he considered bombing Moscow while he was president. And apparently the context is that during this phone call with Daly, Trump said if Putin invaded Ukraine, we would hit Moscow. And Trump continued on saying that he warned Putin it would happen, and Putin kind of believed him. Trump said he sort of believed me, like 5%, 10%. That's all you need. He never did it during my time, John, you know. He didn't do this during the last 4 years because he knew he couldn't, Trump added. One day I'll just get to these lies about how the reason why Putin never did this under Trump is because Trump wanted to pull out of NATO. A lot of people think that if Trump did a second term, which he still might, he'd pull us out of NATO. Putin would love that. Trump also condemned our Western allies, wanted Germany to pay more for defense spending. He was buddies with Kim Jong-un, spoke highly of Putin. It wasn't because Putin was afraid of Trump. Putin just knew that Trump was kind of this weak guy who adored authoritarians, you know? I do think, though, I mean, like Trump, as you guys know, I am not a fan of the guy, but I do think he does have balls in some ways that Biden doesn't. But it's not in making Putin worried. It's just all bullshit, you know? I'm very certain that Trump is just trying to reiterate the point that none of this would have happened if we were president, you know, blah, 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 blah. I mean, 2 weeks ago he was saying Putin's a genius, and then the next this. Honestly, I was thinking about this while I was just getting ready to record, is that I think this is kind of the problem with the Trumpist movement, is that they're very black and white, focused on these topics, and they try to apply them to the culture war. But some of these crises are not easy to just mix and muddle the way they do with the culture war. Something like Ukraine being invaded by Russia without any justification is pretty black and white, but these people have been dancing on the fringes of a culture war. So when something is so black and white, I think it's sometimes hard for them to just say what should be said. And, you know, we've seen this with Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham and lots of other people on Fox News and in the Trump orbit. You know, I think a black and white military invasion that is just morally and tangibly wrong has kind of broken the brains of some of these people. But, you know, just sticking on this kind of beginning introduction here for this episode, I will also add that I've come to realize that Putin is an idiot. It's taken me a while to come around to that, but I do. I think he's an idiot. I think it was the president of Lithuania today that said that deterrence is not enough. We need weapons because Putin won't stop at Ukraine. And we've been seeing almost all the Baltic states trying to join NATO or the EU or both. Within a span of 2 weeks, Putin has unified everyone against him, maybe minus China, Eritrea, and Syria. So call that the axis of fun right there. But he's completely torn up the world order. But, you know, we have Germany sending weapons. We have Sweden offering to send weapons. We have Switzerland not being neutral. Switzerland wants to, send their support to the West on this. When Switzerland is not neutral, I think you know you fucked up. Excuse my language. I guess this is going to be a explicit episode here. I'll make sure and put the warning on iTunes here. But, you know, Switzerland was neutral in World War II. So if that tells you anything about this, I don't know what Putin is thinking, but he's almost mobilized just everyone minus China who could gain from this against him. I just don't know anymore.